Pengullet is one of Palworld's most adorable pals, so cute and lovable, but now I ask myself one of Palworld's greatest life questions. How do I make this lovable blue penguin the most competitively viable to absolutely annihilate Overland bosses and especially be ready for when PvP is released? As for PvP information, all we know that it is planned to be released for both open world PvP and most notably for this video, Pal Arena PvP. Other than that, we have no idea how PvP will truly function, so this will be a what if theory for how we would build around it, mainly PvP in mind with a little bit of Overland. And before anyone gets mad and sends angry comments down below, Pengullet isn't really going to do much damage in Overland as it has some of the lowest base stats, but it will be the fun of just seeing how much we can pump up a Pengullet with power. That being said, so I will be basing the Pal Arena off a popular Palworld knockoff, Pokemon, and its turn-based playstyle as well as Overland bosses. So in this video, we'll be going over the challenge of making the best possible IVs, movesets, passives, and breeding combinations to make the best competitive Pengullet possible, while playing on normal difficulty, as this is the default difficulty and what a majority of players will be most familiar with. And if at any moment you enjoy the video or learn anything helpful, consider hitting the like and subscribe button, it really does help out, and comment what pal we should go over next. But why Pengullet? Pengullet is one of my most favorite pals. It's so cute and adorable and goofy, and I just wanted to have fun with the first video of this series where I just want to go over a pal that most players would probably never ever think about min-maxing. So first things first, we'll be going over our main goal of this challenge, what I consider to be the best passives and skills for our Pengullet to learn and how I achieved it. For the skills, we're pretty much set. Pengullet can naturally learn Hydro Laser and Blizzard Spike to take advantage of our water and ice type stab bonus damage. For our last skill, I will be going for Rock Lance for coverage against electric type swap-ins that are super effective against our water typing. And if we ever get a force move, I put Acid Rain just to put like some poison pressure, because I believe it does poison damage. Does not? If not, can you add that power? That'd be nice. As for fire typing, we don't have to really worry about too much, as our water typing will negate the bonus damage done to our ice typing. Plus we are a water type, so we will heavily be pressuring those fire type swap-ins or attackers. Now for passives. Passives are unique buffs that can increase or decrease our pal stats, or even a mixture of both. Pals can have up to 4 passives, which are randomly assigned whenever first spawned in and cannot be changed. These passives include boosting or decreasing attack, defense, movement, or work speed. With that being said, I've set out these 4 passives to be the best for our Pengullet: Lord of the Sea, Frost Emperor, Musclehead, and Legend. Legend increases our attack and defense by 20% and movement speed by 15%. Frost Emperor and Lord of the Sea increases our damage done with frost and water types by 20% respectively. And lastly, Musclehead increases attack by 30% while also reducing work speed by 50%, with an obvious honorable mention to Ferocious. The Lord and Emperor buffs, a 20% increased damage done, should give us pressure against what I see being the 2 prominent typings, Fire and Dragon. Fire is the only typing in the entire game super effective against 2 elements, grass and ice. As for Dragon, I can see everyone overusing Jet Dragon, mistakenly taking it as the strongest pal. It is the fastest, don't get me wrong, however stat wise there are other pals that just blow it out of the water. And I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to brag about annihilating a legendary pal with a mere Pengullet? I know I would. As for my viewers wanting to make their own powerful Pengullet to take on world bosses, you can follow this formula and replace any of the Lord or Emperor passes with Ferocious. And then for your skills, you can just use whatever skills you want. If you're going to be attacking a boss that's dealing with fire damage, you just put all your highest damage water types. But now comes our first hurdle. Pengullet can only naturally spawn in with one of the 4 current passives, Musclehead, meaning that we will have to breed down the other 3 powerful traits. And that is where the true agony of this challenge run comes into play. Palworld breeding. This is where hopes and dreams come to die. In Palworld, breeding is very simple to understand the basics. All pals can breed with each other. To breed, you simply build a breeding farm and assign 2 opposite gender pals with some cake. Give it some time for love to blossom, and they'll lay an egg, which is then hatched in an egg incubator. Those hatched eggs then have a chance of inheriting their parents' passives, with the chance of also developing any random number of other passives. So you basically breed a pal with the passives you want and you're set, right? In a perfect world. However, this is where the true test of one's sanity is. It's a little more complicated at first to understand, so I'll try my best to quickly explain it. A majority of the best passives are exclusively found on specific pals, but luckily can be passed down, such as Legend, being exclusive to the 4 legendaries of the game. So to pass on Legend, in this case we'll use Frost Stallion. Thankfully I already had one with the exact traits I wanted to pass down, Legend and Ice Emperor. The first major problem occurs. Frost Stallion will never be able to produce a Pengullet no matter who you crossbreed it with, due to the game's formula of calculating a pal's egg hatch when crossbreeding. In layman's terms, higher tier pals crossbred with other higher tier pals will produce a higher tier pal, and vice versa for lower tier pals crossbreeding amongst one another. Lower tier pals will produce lower tier pals. Now when crossbreeding a higher tier pal with a lower tier pal will produce a mid tier pal, meaning we have to have multiple generations of different pals to pass down Legend to a Pengullet, which will hopefully make sense in the formula I came up with. So I first chose Frost Stallion as my main pal to pass on Legend, as Frost Stallion also has the exclusive passive of Frost Emperor, so we can pass both down in one generation line. But before I started, I decided to take a detour of breeding a Frost Stallion Knock, a subspecies created when Frost Stallion crossbreeds with a Health Zephyr, which I already have, and it seemed to help my formula with this breeding partner being a Chickpea, which you could just skip entirely with breeding a Frost Stallion with a T-Fan would also give you what we're trying to go for. This will then result in a Chillet being hatched. I then crossbreed Chillet with Foxparks, which hatches a Lunaris, which then breeds with another Foxparks, giving us Kelpsy, which when finally crossbred with a Maukris or Vixie finally hatches a Pengullet. A Pengullet with the potential of having Legend and Ice Emperor. Now that was just the easy version, but the true pain of this is that you aren't guaranteed all the passes will be passed down correctly, as you may not even get a single correct passive passing down, and in my case I needed both Legend and Ice Emperor to pass down together on one pal every generation. Sometimes I got one without the other, or most times I didn't even get a single one passed down. And adding to the pain, waiting hours for eggs to hatch. But with enough willpower and determination, I was able to pass them down. As for the last 2 passes, Musclehead is a passive any pal naturally has access to, and luckily I had a Chickpea with Musclehead. As for Lord of the Sea, this is exclusively found on Yormantine, the water typing base, not the fire subspecies, the normal Yormantine. So off I went to take out one of the 2 Overland Yormantine bosses, as this is the only way to capture one with Lord of the Sea. Now onwards to breeding, and as before we will need to have multiple generations of pals. Yormantine with Chickpea hatches a Mumu, and that Mumu with the same Chickpea hatches a Dazi, and that Dazi with the same Chickpea lastly gives me a Pengullet with Musclehead and Lord of the Sea. And after all that, we're still not at the worst of it, as we still have to breed our 2 Pengullets with each other and pray the divines that the stars align and the passes correctly pass down together. And let me tell you, the amount of Pengullets I had to go through before I was finally able to hatch one was abysmal, to the point of wanting to quit the breeding challenge entirely. The game even wanted to toy with me with a few baits, and even with the second best possible passes, Ferocious instead of Frost Emperor, which I almost gave into, but I persevered, and after 14 hours of non-stop grinding, I was finally able to hatch 2 of the perfect passes Pengullet: Legend, Frost Emperor, Lord of the Sea, and Musclehead. So we finally made it to the end, our prodigy Pengullet. Now is the time to level him up to level 50 to see its full potential. My Pengullet's IVs are about 25% HP, 9% attack, and 20% defense. Now I didn't want to mention IVs as much, as there is nothing you can really do to control for them and are permanent one set. You can have up to 30% increase on one set. Now I could keep hatching more Pengullets to min-max IVs, but with the randomness of passives and IVs, in my personal opinion, I don't currently find it worthwhile. But the moment we get info on when PvP is being released, you best believe I'm going hard on IV grinding, hopefully on better pals. We'll see. Until then, I'd rather try to breed other pals, as we have the main pals we can repeatedly breed for IVs. As much as this challenge was painful, it truly was fun just going with the plan and executing it and just having all the fun of the hurdles. But I hope you did enjoy the video or learn something new. If you did, leave a like and comment on what pal we should go over next, as well as subscribing and hitting the bell notification to stay up to date when future videos drop, as next we will be going over the strongest pal in all of Palworld. Until then, I was your host Adan, and I'll see you in the next video. Toodaloo!